The music in the Legend of Zelda series is one of the main reasons I got into the series in the first place. And we're going big today because we're going to be ranking each and every Zelda soundtrack, so let's get started. Hey, what's going on guys? It's Ryan here from Game Essays. This channel is all about covering my favorite game series, which is The Legend of Zelda. If you enjoy Zelda reviews, tier lists, discussion videos, I highly recommend you both like this video and subscribe to the channel. Today we are ranking each and every Zelda soundtrack. So we're looking holistically at each soundtrack from each game and saying, is it S tier, A tier, all the way down to, it's been too long and I don't remember. And that's only going to be for a couple of games, but I'm pretty sure those wouldn't be at the top of most people's lists anyway. So let's just get started. Now, I'm going to go with, to start, Oracle of Seasons, because I just recently played this game, and I will be doing a review of it soon, so stay tuned for that. But it's fresh in my head, and I figure I'll just start with it. Oracle of Seasons, I think, doesn't have a bad soundtrack by any means, but there's really not too much that is also memorable either. I will say Dancing Dragon Dungeon has a great soundtrack to it, or great music to it. I love that. The town music, Horon Village, it's fine. It's very standard. There's nothing that really stands out, and there's also a lot that was kind of, not a lot, but at least a little bit that was lifted directly from Link's Awakening because it's using the same template and everything. But I would just say it's very average. I just put it in the C tier for soundtrack. It's not bad at all, but it's not amazing either. Now let's go to just a banger, man. Ocarina of Time. Great soundtrack. We have, let's think of some original ones, because A Link to the Past, we know it borrows a lot from A Link to the Past, but let's go, what is original in Ocarina of Time? We have Epona's song, we have the Song of Storms, we have all the dungeon music, Forest Temple, we have Gerudo Valley, of course, but then there's also, back to the dungeons here, we got Spirit Temple, there's the Castle Town music, we have all the shop music, like the what am I thinking? All the mini game music, right? The Bombchu, Bowling Alley, all that stuff. It's some great stuff. And of course the title theme, which I use all the time in my videos. It is an S tier soundtrack. Now, isn't my favorite though? We'll have to see about that. Now, let's jump to Breath of the Wild. This is a little bit more of a controversial one. Now, Breath of the Wild definitely has some great music in it, and it's much more subtle than most other soundtracks, right? It's not in your face except when it wants to be, like Hyrule Castle or a boss fight or a cutscene. There might be some more music going on, but otherwise it's very just, they let the game kind of speak for itself. They let the environment, that kind of noise really happen. The ambiance is really what they're going for. So it's just not super memorable compared to other Zelda games, but I think it executes what it does very well. That being said, I think it's a B tier for me. It has some great music to it, like Rito Village, and I do appreciate what it's trying to do, and I think what it does well. But at the end of the day, what music are you going to remember from Zelda? Most of it is going to be from other games because it's more forward, it's more pronounced. Let's jump to an NES game, because that's kind of interesting, right? Like, let's look at Zelda 2. Zelda 2 has one track that everybody loves and remembers, and most people might remember it from Smash Bros. Melee, actually, and that is the Palace theme. Everyone loves it. It's a great theme. There's some other underrated music in this game. I think the Overworld theme is a nice little kind of take on the original, but going in its own direction. The title theme itself, I think, is pretty good too. The Great Palace theme is also pretty good. It's just, there's not a lot of music, but I think what it does is pretty good, and I would also give this a B tier. It's, like I said, not a lot of tracks, but there's more good tracks than bad tracks in my opinion. And I'm gonna say the original Legend of Zelda probably falls in that category too. It obviously gave us the original Zelda theme that we all love, but there's just not a lot of tracks on there, but there's more good tracks than bad tracks. And a lot of people remember the dungeon theme from this game, the overworld theme. The final dungeon theme is not that amazing, but even like the game over and credits theme are really fun in the original Legend of Zelda. So I can't really give it higher than a B just because there's not a ton of meat on that bone. But for what is there, it's good. Link's Awakening. Link's Awakening has some really amazing music on it. Particularly, I love the Switch redo of these musics. If that's even a sentence, that was just terribly said. But the Switch version really enhanced a lot of the music that was already fantastic, right? I'm struggling where I want to put it. I love that Link's Awakening, I think, was the first game to have each dungeon have its own music. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was a big step. Particularly, I mean, it was a Game Boy game and it did a lot. And the Switch versions are fantastic. So I'm just going to rate it as best in the way that I'm rating it on its best day. So if I like the Switch, I like the Switch music better. So I'm going to rate it as the Switch music. And Link's Awakening, man. I think I gotta give it an S tier, honestly. And Link's Awakening is not even, it's just not a favorite game of mine, but the music, I think there's just some music that really just, it hits different. So I think I gotta give it an S tier. So Four Swords Adventures is gonna be one of those games that it's under been too long, don't remember. And I don't want to just listen to a couple tracks and try and rate it. I want to maybe come back and let you guys know when I do my full review of this game, which I have a series, if you don't know, I'm ranking and rating every single Zelda game. So I will eventually get to Four Swords Adventure. So I want to do it justice. So I'm not going to rate it now because it's been too long and I don't remember. And if I just look up a YouTube playlist, I don't think I'm going to do it justice. I would rather play through it and have the context of the music. So that's why I'm not ranking it right now. And I'm going to do the same with the original Four Swords because it really has been too long and I don't remember. Also, Triforce Heroes I don't think is on here, but that would be the same. Okay, A Link Between Worlds. A Link Between Worlds I think is fantastic. It does borrow a lot from A Link to the Past, but it's still damn good. But I think because of that, I'm going to give it a B tier. It does have, it has its own music in there too. But I think it does, like I said, borrow a lot from A Link to the Past. And for that, I don't think I could rate it any higher. Skyward Sword. I'm pretty fresh on this. And Skyward Sword to me is going to get an A tier. There's a lot of great music in Skyward Sword. There's a lot of great music that goes extremely well with the cutscenes. It may not be as memorable as something like Ocarina of Time, but when it's scoring certain cutscenes, it's done super well. Fi's theme is fantastic. I love the Lanayru Desert theme. There's a lot of the Isle of Songs I'm a big fan of. Some of the different areas like Faron Woods, like the the Silent Realm version is really memorable. There's a lot going very, very well for this game and its soundtrack. Some of the dungeon themes are fantastic. Lanayru Mining Facility is one of my favorite dungeon themes. It does a lot right, and I think it wholeheartedly, let's go with that word, wholeheartedly deserves an A tier. Oracle of Ages, I don't remember it being any, particularly better than Seasons. These games always get paired together for a reason, but I do think they're on the same level soundtrack-wise. Both borrow the overworld theme from Link's Awakening, and it has decent music, but it's not incredible music. Maybe if they get Switch remakes, I might think differently. And trust me, these games will be getting their due eventually. Like I said, next review coming is Oracle of Seasons as of the recording of this video, and I'm looking at that game completely on its own. No Ages Seasons duo review. I want to look at them completely standalone. So those games will get their due. It's just today's not that day. Spirit Tracks. Spirit Tracks soundtrack is damn good. Better than maybe it had any right to. The overall theme is fantastic. There's a few other like town themes that I love in this game. To me, I remember being pleasantly surprised, and I think A tier perfectly fits the soundtrack for this game. It really was way better than it had any right to be, and I do love the Spirit Tracks soundtrack. Link to the Past, let's just shoot it right up into the S tier. This is like the blueprint for every great Zelda song. Like Link to the Past, it all started with Link to the Past. Kakariko Village, we got the Hyrule Castle theme, we got Ganon's theme, Zelda's Lullaby started in this game. We have the Overworld theme, which was basically taking the original Overworld theme and making it better. We have the Dark World theme. There's too much. S tier, S tier, S tier. It's above Link's Awakening in my opinion, and it's probably above Ocarina of Time, honestly, because it just did so much. Minish Cap. Minish Cap's fantastic game. Its soundtrack, I don't know if it's quite S tier for me. I'm trying to think of music that really stood out to me from the Minish Cap. And maybe there's something big I'm forgetting. I mean, there's a nice remix of the Hyrule Castle theme in there, but nothing's like super standing out to me in my mind right now. And maybe you guys are like, you're crazy, this theme is amazing. There's some nice music in here, but it's probably gonna be a C tier for me, honestly. I love the Minish Cap, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if its music quite hits the same as some of the other games. I mean, let's put it this way, guys. A C tier Zelda soundtrack is still like A or S tier compared to a lot of other game series, right? Okay. Phantom Hourglass. This may be the only D tier in the list, but Phantom Hourglass just does not live up to the quality of Zelda games, in my opinion. This is a game it's not, it's been about a year since I played it, but I did a full review on this game if you haven't seen it yet. The soundtrack, yes, it's got a couple good themes, like Linebeck's theme is great, and the Ocean King theme is great. But other than that, this soundtrack is super bland, and Spirit Tracks basically took that to heart for the DS, and they stepped their game up. But yeah, I think Phantom Hourglass, this ain't it, Chief. That's all I'm gonna say. The soundtrack is really weak. It's a great game, but the soundtrack is super weak. Okay. Majora's Mask. We got Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess to finish things off here. Majora's Mask, let's see. It does borrow a lot of music from Ocarina of Time, no doubt. You got Song of Storms in there. You have Epona's song is in there. There's a lot of stuff that comes directly from Ocarina, but it does have a ton of its own things going on. The Clock Town theme is fantastic. We have the Deku Palace theme, which is one of my favorite tracks in Zelda. There's a lot going on, right? We have that, the theme that is playing at each of the areas before you save them, but it sounds a little bit different in each of their own areas, like Icona Castle versus the Deku Palace. Well, not Deku Palace, but, the Swamplands, whatever. And then, things like the Pirate Fortress theme, which is great. It is really good. Of course, the Song of Healing. How could I forget that? and in the final hour music, the Oath to Order, the Stone Tower Temple music. I mean, I basically just talked myself into it is S tier, in my opinion, for sure. Twilight Princess. Let's finish off with Twilight Princess, because you guys probably know if you've seen my Wind Waker review. If you have not, go check it out. Wind Waker may be my favorite soundtrack of all time, so Wind Waker is easily in the S tier for me, and probably slot number 1. It's between that and A Link to the Past, I think, for the best Zelda soundtrack, with Ocarina maybe coming in close second. I would probably put Majora's is neck and neck with Ocarina, and then I'd put Link's Awakening kind of at the end of S tier for me. But yeah, Wind Waker, I mean, the title theme itself is incredible. The legendary hero music that plays when you start the game, that intro sequence. You have the Dragon Roost Island theme, which everybody loves, and for good reason, because it's incredible. You have the Hyrule Castle music that plays when you first go down to Hyrule Castle, and the music that plays when Hyrule is drowning at the end of the game. There's just so much good music, and I just love this soundtrack. You have Outset Island, you have Windfall Island. There's just so much stuff I love about the Wind Waker soundtrack that it's easily an S tier game for me in terms of the soundtrack. Twilight Princess. This is one, guys, that just doesn't quite do it for me. It's not bad, but there's not a ton that's memorable to me. Midna's Lament, of course, is incredible, and it is, without question, in my opinion, the best song in the game. But the dungeon music, I honestly don't really remember most of it. The Hyrule Field theme is good, but it's definitely not my favorite. There's a lot, there's some good stuff mixed in here. I'm not crazy about this version of the Kakariko Village theme. It's good, but it's not great. I do love the Hyrule Castle music at the end of the game, don't get me wrong, but yeah, the Twilight Princess soundtrack specifically, I would probably just put it at the low end of B tier. That's where I sit with it. If you guys want to convince me another way, like if you want to tell me why I'm wrong, please do tell me in the comments. Maybe I'll reconsider it. But for now, this is where I stand with the soundtracks. I'm very comfortable with where I am at with the S tier, with Wind Waker, Link to the Past, Ocarina, Majora, and Link's Awakening. I firmly believe that those are the best soundtracks in Zelda. But hey, if you guys have different opinions, let me know. It's all subjective. It's a fun conversation, and I look forward to continuing that conversation. But thank you guys so much for listening, if you were just listening to this podcast style or watching, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure to like and subscribe.